We already learned about press rights, so let's run through some press wrongs. Reporting, both good and bad reporting, can get you into trouble. Now, these warnings aren't meant to discourage you from pursuing a career in journalism, but instead to teach you what you need to know to help minimize your risks. First, stories that can get you jailed. You, as a journalist, can be jailed for contempt of court if the reporter refuses to tell the judge a source of controversial material used in a story. You can be jailed for trespassing when a reporter walks or snoops onto private property without the owner's consent. Finally, in some countries outside the United States, journalists can be jailed for sedition. That's the publication of material considered too critical of government leaders and policies. Some stories can get you sued. You can get sued for libel, which is the publication of a false statement that maliciously or carelessly damages someone's reputation. We'll talk more about this in a few minutes as well. You can also get sued for invasion of privacy, using people in a story in a way that violates their right to be left alone. We'll talk a little bit more about this in depth as well. And finally, you can be sued for breach of contract by publishing the name of a confidential source after promising not to do so. That's a tough decision that some journalists face. Go to jail for not revealing a source, or be sued for revealing a source. Now, if you still want to be the journalist after the last slide, here are some more things that can get you into trouble. Stories that can get you fired. Plagiarism is absolutely a fireable offense. This is the passing of words or ideas as your own when you didn't create them and you didn't attribute them to the source. We fired a student at the NC State Technician during my time there and reported him to the Office of Student Conduct, although he could not be further disciplined because the newspaper wasn't part of an academic activity. Now, fabrication is manufacturing or falsifying any facts, quotes, or events for a story. Now, this is the reason that you need to provide contact information for your sources to keep you honest. And yes, I am checking up on you. And then there are lapses in ethics. These are any behavior by reporters, whether on the job or off, that could damage the public's and the publication's reputation. And finally, there are stories that can get you angry phone calls. The first reason for an angry phone call is bias, taking sides in a story, or failing to present both sides of an issue fairly, or slanting a story by manipulating facts to sway a reader's opinions. Next up is bad taste. Every so often, Technician runs a sex issue, which in itself is not bad or wrong, but some articles have been a lot worse than others. What advice I always give to the editor is this: is this something you want your name attached to? If the answer is yes, then by all means run the story as is. If a story is being lewd just for lewdness sake and not presenting any real information, then it should probably be rewritten before publication. And last but not least, blunders and bloopers in your reporting can get you an angry phone call. Careless mistakes, spelling someone's name wrong, or misquotes can get you in hot water with your readers and with your editor. All journalists need to understand libel law. Now, libel is the publication of a false statement that maliciously or carelessly damages someone's reputation. In order for something to be found libelous, all 5 of the following criteria must be met. The statement must be false, based on facts that are wrong or unverifiable. The statement must be defamatory. Usually, a libelous statement accuses someone of a crime or an immorality, discredits a person professionally, or implies that someone has a loathsome disease. The statement must be published. Now, any form of communication counts, whether it's printed, broadcast, posted online, or through social media. The statement must have an identifiable plaintiff. Now, it's up for the plaintiff to prove that the libelous statement is about them. And finally, the defendant, that's you, must be at fault through either negligence, that's failure to exercise appropriate caution, or through malice. Let's pause for a moment and make sure that we understand the definitions of some of the words that we're talking about. Now, we just mentioned malice. Actual malice means you printed a statement, either knowing it was false or with reckless disregard for the truth. Basically, you didn't know if the statement was true or false, and you didn't care. Now, an opinion, as you probably can guess, is an idea that you don't claim to be factual. Now, if I were to write that Papa John's pizza tastes bad, or that Patrick Stewart was the greatest actor who ever lived, those statements are not provably true or false. They're opinions, not facts. Slander is the spoken version of libel. Now, something I didn't actually know before reading our textbook is that a defamatory statement made on TV or radio, even though it's spoken instead of written, still qualifies as libel. Now, a public official is someone who exercises power or influence in office, in public office, in government affairs. Now, that's someone, again, elected or appointed to public office, like the mayor or a governor or a school board member. And finally, you have the public figure. This is a person who has acquired fame or notoriety. Now, these are people who either deliberately seek out the spotlight, like actors and athletes, or those who have participated in some public controversy, such as a protester or a social activist. Now that you know what libel is, how do you defend yourself and your publication? The best defense against libel is the truth. The provable, verifiable, undisputed truth. It's up to the plaintiff, that's the person suing you, to prove that what you wrote is false. Another defense is consent. If someone gave you permission to print the statement, the source can't go back and sue you later, saying you didn't have permission to print it. Finally, use your fair report privilege to report on newsworthy statements, public controversies, the legislative and judicial proceedings, so long as your story is accurate and fair. Now, ideally, you'll never get sued for libel in the first place, but always verify your material, twice, 3 times. If people are likely to be offended or damaged by a story, give them the chance to defend themselves in the original story. It will help decrease your chances of getting sued later. And finally, if you make a mistake, correct it. Set the record straight as quickly as possible. Once upon a time, there was a vaudeville trio called the Cherry Sisters, and they were awful. A critic for a small-town Iowa newspaper saw the group in 1901 and wrote a rather scathing review. The sisters read the review and sued for libel. The judge, who had heard their case, had also seen their terrible show and ruled in favor of the newspaper. The sisters appealed to the Iowa Supreme Court, who ruled that, quote, any performance to which the public is invited may be freely criticized. The case established the definition of fair comment and criticism. Now, because of the Cherry Sisters, reviewers are free to publish negative critiques of books, plays, restaurants, etc. Now, they aren't, however, free to publish damaging facts that aren't true. That's libel. Our next topic is invasion of privacy. The most common ways for a journalist to invade someone's privacy is first, intrusion. This is a form of invasion of privacy in which a reporter gathers information unethically in a situation where someone has the right to expect privacy. Now, intrusion might involve trespassing, a crime in which the reporter walks or snoops onto private property without the owner's consent. It might also involve secret surveillance, using hidden cameras, recorders, or bugging devices. Or it might involve misrepresentation, disguising oneself to gain unauthorized access to a private area. Invasion of privacy also includes the public disclosure of private facts. Now, this might involve the disclosure of private facts, those known only to family or friends, and not of a legitimate concern to the public. It might involve intimate information, something personal that people wouldn't ordinarily want revealed, or offensive information that's liable to humiliate someone if the information became widely known. In March 2008, the University of North Carolina Chapel Hill student body president, Eve Carson, was kidnapped and murdered. 4 years later, Carson's photo appeared on this billboard in India, advertising study abroad programs. The company said the use of the photo was not intentional, but it obviously wasn't used with permission. This is a pretty severe case of appropriation in advertising, but one I wanted to share with you.